I don't know what we're supposed to do with all of this. And it really begs the question, how many rounds of screening are we going to do? And because no designations were placed against the names, what's the point? Because you will then find that in similar to previous dispensations, you had, for example, a senior advocate of Nigeria being posted to the Ministry of Culture and Information. And I think that is putting a round peg in a square hole. It would have been a lot better to put designations against the names of the nominees so that we can, the National Assembly, and by extension, Nigerians can then determine if the nominated individual is the right fit for the office to which he or she is being nominated. But that's what it is, sadly.
Okay, let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 981. You can also tweet at smooth981. And we're streaming live on YouTube as well. So all you need to do is just go on to YouTube, search for Smooth 981 FM Lagos, and you can catch the live stream. Okay. Kende says, honestly, this is not trying to be pessimistic. Unless our economy is agric based and expect the naira to appreciate against the dollar. That was the situation in the 70s. And Dr. I from CMS says, I hope the president will also acknowledge and accept the negative comments from the same foreign governments when it comes and not accuse Nigerians of being unpatriotic when we support those critics. Joseph says the administration is claiming to be receiving accolades for the implementation of the policies given before obtaining loans. Has the government gone out to find out the updates of the policy implementation? Are the citizens faring any better? Or is it just to carry out policies without any buffers to cushion the effects of actions? The government should stop clapping for themselves. The poor are choking. May God help Nigeria. And Tunde from Lekki says, Mr. President should get his aides to look at the results the manufacturing companies are publishing for their half year. The exchange rate harmonization has severely impacted on their financial performance, resulting in either significantly lower profits or outright losses. So this patting on the back is hasty. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Do stay with us. The show continues shortly.
Mr. C.
Yes, sir.
On the earlier story, they have to do a screening to justify the 40 billion spent on SUV. Don't you know? I mean, they came naked. Onto Abuja, they came naked. They got clothing allowance. Onto Abuja, they came with no furniture, no cars, nothing. They had no newspapers. So you need all this screening to say why they were able to approach Abuja all devoid of everything. And now they are screening people who supposedly have been screened by DSS. What ability, what capacity, what resources do they actually have to screen? Like you said, when we don't know what the designation of each person is supposed to be. It's a farce.
Sorry, honestly.
You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. The analysts are in. It's Mr. C and AB. Let us know what your thoughts are. We see the messages coming. Please keep them coming. 0809 444 981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. We're streaming live on YouTube. It's Smooth981 FM Lagos. From Punch, the leader of the separatist indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, was returned to the custody of the DSS after being released on Saturday to be attended to by his personal physician. AB?
It should be noted that this was, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay. So it should be noted that this all happened when the judges dismissed a prayer or an objection by the DSS to allow this happen. in the past few days, weeks, the DSS has been publicly involved in a number of things that have made me question what exactly they are up to. It should be noted that it is said that Nnamdi Kanu had an ear infection, and a certain notable government official before now used to travel abroad for such things. I don't know whether this Nnamdi Kanu will be given that same treatment, but he was allowed to go to see his personal choice physician, and he's now back in DSS custody. I think DSS should be a close watcher and obeyer of the laws and not keep doing this kind of, for me, I don't know what the point was. Certainly when he went for that doctor's appointment, I know the DSS was with him all the way outside the room, surrounding the building. So I think they just took an L for nothing, because the judge said, hey, a person is allowed by the Constitution to maybe get their own preferred medical care. He can be brought back to your custody. So it's just a side note, but the DSS seems to be embroiled in a number of things that just make them look questionable at best in my eyes when it comes to obeying or wanting to obey the spirit and the word of the law.
All right, thank you, AB. Let's go on to some messages coming through. This one is from Veronica from Enugu, and she says, is the federal government saying the various permanent secretaries are not working, or a designated minister has to be present for work to be done? Kasim says, this administration is self-aggrandizing. We shouldn't be surprised at all. They're definitely unaware of what's going on in the country. Ajayi says, I've not seen any developing country that implements the IMF twin policy of subsidy removal and floating of the currency that didn't plunge further into misery. Zimbabwe is a living example. Let's go on to Vanguard. The NLC has told the Solicitor General of the Federation and Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Justice that there is no order, be it interim or perpetual, that would restrain the workers from participating in peaceful rallies that are convened, of course, by the NLC.
Okay, so thank you, Zibby. So how did we get here? Like I said in the earlier story, the shock effects of removing the fuel subsidy completely, or seemingly completely, because we've been down this road before. In 2016, the same subsidy was removed, but that's a story for another day. And then the managed float of the Naira have led to increased and intense hardship for millions of Nigerians. And whilst we were on break, I was reading stories that further in the Northeast, we're looking at Bauchi and some other states, there is intense unrest. Places that have foodstuffs stored are being raided and foodstuffs are being taken. Whilst we acknowledge that under the law that is unlawful and illegal, we cannot separate our minds from the facts that we got here because of policies of the government. Now, the government has been rather slow or reticent in providing the measures or identifying or implementing the measures that will cushion the effects of these twin shocks. And they've continued to ask for more time. Now, at the same time, Labour has repeatedly pointed out that the government is being too slow in rolling out these measures and has given a 7-day notice of a nationwide mass action or strike. Now, whilst I still maintain that strikes should not be the go-to option, in this case, what are the options for Nigerians? You have a government that was quick to implement shock measures, but is extremely slow in implementing the cushions to bear those shock measures. Now, they keep referring to an ex parte order that was made by the National Industrial Court. And it's gratifying to note that the other lawyers, senior lawyers, in fact, the Leonard Silk, Mr. Femi Falana, who shares the same position, that order was never made interim or final. And ex parte orders have a limited lifespan under the rules of court. Now, the Nigerian government is threatening to enforce the court order. How do you enforce an order of court that has lapsed, that has expired? You cannot. You can only enforce an order that is existing or alive. Now, beyond all of this, there is a subsisting judgment of the Supreme Court delivered 15 years ago in 2008. and it was between the Inspector General of Police and the All People's Party. And I want to read a particular portion of that judgment. And it's to the effect that, and this is Justice Adike GSC Ashidenos, the right to demonstrate and the right to protest on matters of public concern are rights which are in the public interest and that which individuals must possess and which they should exercise without impediment as long as no wrongful act is done. Now, the learned silk has also gone on to draw attention to Section 83, subsection 4 of the Police Establishment Act 2020, which states where a person or organization notifies the police of his or its intention to hold a public meeting, rally, or procession on a public highway, or such meetings in a place where the public has access to, the police officer responsible for the area where the meeting, rally, or procession will take place shall mobilize personnel to provide security cover for the meeting, rally, or procession. And the police officer responsible is either the divisional police officer, commonly known as the DPO, or the area commander. Now, why is all of this necessary? As usual, which is customary for them, the security agencies have developed reports or received reports suggesting there will be a breakdown of law and order. It is truly shocking that when truly violent and wicked crimes are being committed, they never get any foreknowledge. They never get any intelligence reports. It is when people are legitimately and lawfully seeking to protest the hardship that has been imposed on millions of Nigerians, they now get security reports. So who are the people going to foment the trouble when the majority of Nigerians are complaining? So the Nigerian government should not toe the line with previous administrations that when there are complaints against them, they seek to shut down those complaints. We must remember that Nigeria is supposed to be a democracy and people are guaranteed and entitled to their rights of opinion. Not everyone is going to agree with this current administration. Not everyone will be in support of its policies. Now, provided those opinions are provided in a lawful manner, the fact that you do not agree with them does not give you the right to shut them down. Nigerians must be free to express themselves. And funny enough, the current president was in the forefront, or was one of those in the forefront in the Nadeco days against the late General Sani Abacha. So it is extremely ridiculous and defeats all sense of logic for his administration to be coming up with this at this point in time. If the Nigerian Labour Congress calls for a mass action and the majority of Nigerians out there resonate with that call, then it says only one thing. This administration must be prepared to take feedback on its policies. And no policy is cast in stone. If you roll out a policy and the majority of the people are against it, common sense behoves that you pause that policy, take it back, and rejig it. But if the majority of Nigerians insist that they don't want this policy at this point in time, then I'm sorry, you can't force it on them. You shouldn't force it on them. So this is a signal, and let's see what happens when the deadline expires. But again, the suffering is getting more intense. People are struggling to eat a meal a day. I'm not even talking about a square meal or a fully satisfying meal. People are struggling to eat. People are struggling to live. And we cannot continue this way. Those measures, even the measures that can be implemented in the short term or near term, need to be done as early as this week.
All right, let's go on to WhatsApp. Victor says, if Nnamdi Kanu is not in DSS custody, please, what exactly will be their job all this while? They seem to take having custody of Kanu as their primary role and objective. The mandate of the DSS is bigger than holding him. There are issues of national security begging for attention. Olatunde says the federal government is not serious about letting the poor breathe. A low-hanging fruit they could implement, like right now, is a reduction in workers' pay as you earn. This will increase the take-home pay of workers and simultaneously not burdening already stressed out employers of labor. How difficult can that be? All right, and on to the nation. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says that the US is behind President Bola Tinubu's efforts to restore democracy in Niger Republic.
Welcome, Blinken. So there was the coup that's been confirmed now in Niger Republic, which gives one of our esteemed citizens one less place he can go and get away from the problems of Nigerians towards him. The train line, I bet, has been blocked because I hear they close their borders. And the West is, of course, concerned. Interestingly, there are geopolitical rumblings around this because I think the people there are in touch with Russia. They have stopped the export of uranium to France. They have actually canceled the French kind of neocolonialistic link with them. And the Brits are calling Nigerian president, who happens to be the head of ECOWAS, to say, hey, rah, you go, we're behind you. Interesting to hear. The Nigerian people are saying, we are a sovereign nation, and if you do anyhow, you see anyhow. They have the backing, as it turns out, of some of the Russians. And I just think with all the saber rattling and all that, when coups have happened elsewhere, everybody has respected the sovereignty of the nations, including when they happened multiple times in Nigeria. So there's a limited amount of pressure. They've applied sanctions, they've done that. What can or will the US do? What was their relationship before? Did they really have aid that they were giving before that they can pull? Can that be replaced? Sometimes I even feel that the best thing for a country is for the aid to be pulled entirely, because maybe at that point, the country can stand on itself. I'm not justifying a coup. I'm saying, so Blinken calls the head of ECOWAS, who is also the president of Nigeria. So what? What will that change on the ground in Niger? This remains to be seen. Tinubu has also, come out with a very strongly worded speech about 7 days deadline. The clock is ticking. We'll see what happens between Blinken, Tinubu, the world, and Niger. They are simply following a tried and true track that had been used successfully in Nigeria as recently as 1983. So it's really not that far back. No names mentioned.
All right. Well, that is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you for listening. Thanks for your messages. Special thanks, of course, to the analyst AB and Mr. C for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Have a wonderful day to everyone who listened. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do stay with us. There is a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.
The headlines, the stories.
Thanks, AB. Bye.